some of these tiny homes don't necessarily have the same amenities that we have. We wanted to make sure that it was housing with dignity and the veterans were comfortable there, and it was their first step in their healing. So through all that, the tiny homes model was actually picked.
Welcome to the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast, the show where you learn how to plan, build, and live the tiny lifestyle. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and this is episode 179 with Vincent Morales. I love finding out about new ways that tiny homes are being used to help people in need. And the Veterans Community Project is an incredibly impressive organization that has accomplished a ton in just a few short years, including 49 tiny homes for veterans on a piece of property that they now own. Vincent Morales has been there from the start, and together we go through the organization's history, what they do, how they settled on tiny houses, and how everything works with the Veterans Community Project. This is a really inspiring conversation, and I'm just so grateful that there are people like Vincent out there doing the work that they're doing. So I hope you stick around. As you'll hear in this interview with Vincent Morales, community is so important. And not just in helping people to heal, but in helping people to thrive and move forward. And that's why I started my online community called Tiny House Engage. Tiny House Engage is a place where tiny dreamers, tiny planners, people building their own tiny houses, and even people living tiny come together to support one another on their tiny house journeys. Registration only opens every 4 to 6 weeks. It's actually been closer to 8 weeks since registration is last open, so I anticipate that there are a lot of people who are excited to join Tiny House Engage. Well, I'm here to tell you that the date is coming up. Tiny House Engage opens this coming Tuesday, and you can find out all the details at thetinyhouse.net/engage. Even if you visit that page before Tuesday, you can sign up to be notified when the doors to Tiny House Engage open. Again, that's thetinyhouse.net/engage. All right, I am here with Sergeant First Class Vincent Morales. Sergeant First Class Vincent Morales served with the U.S. Army with 5 deployments in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, 2 in support of Operation Enduring Freedom, and rotations to Korea and Germany. Upon returning to his hometown of Kansas City, Missouri, Vincent helped found Veterans Community Project, a nonprofit organization with a mission of ending veterans' homelessness. Vincent Morales, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ethan. Thank you for having me. Thank you for everybody listening. I appreciate the opportunity to have some conversations about things that are near and dear to my heart and obviously listeners and your heart, tiny homes and taking care of each other and taking care of Americans.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So can you tell me a bit about, the story behind Veterans Community Project, how it got started?
Yes, indeed. So it had to be around 2015. A group of combat veterans here in Kansas City who were all working in different facets of the veteran lifestyle, veteran culture. I was actually working with a federal program called SSVF. It's a housing grantee, and I was their veteran navigator. And through that, I met the other gentlemen that are helped co-found this organization. And there's a lot of guys talking about things that we want to do. All of us being combat veterans have that understanding of what works and what doesn't work and what is the challenges that the veterans are facing.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of, over some beers, got to have all great ideas start over beers, right? Beer and dinner. Said if we could take away the playbook that's currently in use and start from scratch and do what's right for veterans because it's right, start to move some of the red tape, expedite the process, what would that look like? And of course, kind of came to fruition or 5 years later, where we have a tiny home village of 49 here in Kansas City, a project going along Mont, Colorado. In 2 days, we leave for our groundbreaking in St. Louis, as well as a project getting moving in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That's fast forwarding to where we're at. But it was the idea of what we could do to serve vets the best and the quickest. The tiny homes actually wasn't even in play at this time. This was just let's do right because it's right.
Yeah.
And what we end up kind of coming up with was doing some research around what programs work, what programs didn't work, why were they working, why were they not working, and we end up doing several things that were different when it came to veteran services. So we describe veteran. Our definition of veteran is anybody that has raised their right hand. So there are many other ways to define veteran. We define it uniquely. Since the draft, less than 1/2 of 1% of Americans serve our country. So whether an individual had 20 years or 2 weeks of service, they are a veteran to Veterans Community Project, and we will work with them and service them.
Mhm.
That's really was really game changing and groundbreaking.
Who does the who gets excluded in the kind of traditional definition of veteran?
So it's not necessarily that anyone excludes anybody. It's just navigating the system. So I'll give you a kind of real quick synopsis. In order to be a VA eligible veteran, you have to have 24 months of consecutive service after September 1980. That kind of creates an issue for reservists and Guards members who don't fall under that cap. They may have done 20 years in the National Guard, but they're not eligible
Mm.
for health care unless they were injured until retirement age. So there's a lot of different, deals going on. So the American Legion and the VFW, two amazing organizations, definitely cornerstones of the veteran community. But in order to be a member of each, you have to fall under certain parameters. For to be a veteran, to be a member of the VFW, you have to have been in a foreign war. Obviously, it's in their name. One of our skirmishes, obviously. So it's not necessarily exclusion, by the way. It's just not one veteran is not like the other veteran. There are so many different things that we've all walks of life and qualified for.
Mhm.
So it's about understanding that veteran's path, where they're at in their journey, triaging their situation, and expediting them to the services that they best qualify for. If it's the VA, if it is referral to Vietnam Veterans of America, which they have an amazing organization that's actually gave me a lot of help in my personal life, to maybe the veteran doesn't qualify for any of those things. So there are community partners out there that we can connect them with. So that really breaks down that stigma of you're not a veteran or you don't have this help. That's we've been really amazing at doing that. And that's part of our, really big, huge part of our success. The other part of our success, which I know we'll get to, is the tiny home itself. The tiny home is an amazing tool. And I'll we'll get into that as we continue.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great. I didn't realize that, what you're doing goes way beyond just the tiny houses to connecting veterans to other services. Maybe there's services that you can't provide that you're then connecting them to other services. I do want to kind of move into talking about the tiny houses, and there's just so many questions about them because they look amazing, and it's just so cool to see them all kind of laid out in that nice little meandering the road that kind of squiggles through.
Yeah.
So maybe can you tell us about how you discovered, maybe take us through like the process of discovering tiny houses and then like making them a reality for Veterans Community Project?
So, as I said initially, good food, good beer, great idea. So we're already moving in the right direction. And then the idea came of what would services look like? Main ideas out there. And as you noted, we do more than the tiny homes. That is just our bread and butter. That's what we're known for because that is the
Mhm.
the basis of the needs of an individual having housing. So the initial idea was actually kind of a group living type of situation. But as we progress and we've seen taking tours and some of us have been through personal things in our own lives, understood that's not the best therapeutic environment that is available.
Mhm.
Our original, well, I apologize, she's actually still on our board. She's been our champion since one of the very beginning conversations. Brought the idea up of tiny homes, and at that time, and I'm not sure if it was kind of a right time, right place, but the tiny homes interest had was starting to grow. Zach Giffen with Tiny Homes Nation started making it a known thing.
Mm.
So the idea came about, and we started touring tiny homes village across the nation. We flew to some in Seattle, some in California, seeing what their process was, how they laid out, what they did, what they did and did not offer, how we can improve on that and have housing with dignity. Some of these tiny homes don't necessarily have the same amenities that we have. We wanted to make sure that it was housing with dignity and the veterans were comfortable there and it was their first step in their healing.
Hmm.
So through all that, the tiny homes model was actually picked. And then the layout is amazing. So speaking of Zach Giffen, he actually came down and gave us a hand on our first build.
Nice.
Remember what episode this was? It was 2016. Came down and actually, kind of gave us insights and stuff, kind of showed us floor plans and things of that nature. The specific floor plan that we have, that we abide by for our programming, is a really big part of the reason why veterans are able to progress and get better.
Hmm.
We have, so you've seen some amazing tiny homes with the dual layers and the kind of the bunk bed, the overhang.
Yep.
Ours is actually picked and selected for post-traumatic stress therapy and the ability for veterans to feel safe and comfortable in their own home. Sleep is, for every American, I think sleep is not really a value that we something that we value enough. So
No.
when you wake up in crisis mode every day and you have little sleep, you're probably not going to make the best decisions. So part of our program is giving that veteran the ability to gain that night's sleep, that they know that they can lock and close that door,
Yeah.
that they are surrounded by people that care and love for them, and that they are safe in their house, which then allows them to get up and be productive at rectifying whatever caused their situation. There are a lot of things that went kind of happened with the city. But once again, our board president really championed our cause and
Nice.
helped us build the tiny home village here in Kansas City.
So the homes range in size. It looks like about 250 to 350 square feet, something like that.
Yes, indeed. So, as mentioned earlier, we kind of thought outside the box. One of the first things that we did was say we're going to change what the term and/or definition of veteran is.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, from a programmatic standpoint, there are a lot of agencies that do amazing things, but they service the veteran and the veteran alone. They are not able
Yeah.
to serve sometimes their family or their companion animal. So we do have two sizes of houses. We have our single units, 240 square feet, and then we have a family unit. So then those are 340 square feet, and they actually sleep six.
Wow.
Queen size bed, triple stack, custom made bunk bed, and a roll out sofa. Now, I don't think you want to be with six people in a tiny house all day, but it affords that family, that veteran, to continue to work on or recreate those bonds,
Yeah.
which is part of that therapy.
Yeah. So, in terms of, so it looks like the houses, they don't have a sleeping loft, so it's one open room. What do they have in them in terms of utilities?
So utility wise, so everything for us is electric.
Mm-hmm.
We have they're actually built slab on grade. So
Uh-huh.
here in Missouri, we're in Tornado Alley. The houses are they're some of the safest structures around here. We built in phases. So the
Mm-hmm.
first 13 were literally built by us by hand. We were still, very young. Now we're still a young nonprofit now, but we were in the very early beginning years. So we would do our given, job here, whether it was networking, development, connecting the veterans, building the program out. And then every night, all staff would go that wasn't there all day and hang sheetrock and
Wow.
so yeah, the initial houses, I would say almost everything was done by us with the exception of a couple skilled labor agencies that helped us out with all the things that we weren't able to do.
Mm-hmm.
But really had some really great partners. T Electric, United Heating and Cooling came through and did that skilled part. So slab on grade, 2x4s, and as we progressed, it was that they were actually all insulated to an R34. We're actually happy
Nice.
to, kind of announce that we got better as the project progressed. We're actually at an R42 now with our insulation. Just
Nice.
learning how to the tricks in the trade and how to make the house a little bit better as you kind of alluded to earlier, what comes with the house. So as an individual walk in the house, on the would be right hand side is the kitchenette,
Hmm.
range stove, electric range stove, a hooded stove, a hood for venting, refrigerator, granite countertops, shelves that are all custom hand built. Then would be on the left hand side would be a living room area, kind of a desk, TV, kind of your informational area. Then directly against the back wall, and if there's a picture of seeing something inside of a tiny home, it's a direct line of sight to the front door.
Mm,
So that veteran is sitting here, front door is here, the only window is there, and would be directly to my left would be the restroom.
right.
So that's part of the therapy of the house itself. So they would come in, and then there is an armoire for the clothing and all the other fun stuff,
Yeah.
and then a really amazing bathroom. People don't realize how much you can do with 240 square feet.
Yeah.
We have a tankless water heater, so that's always amazing. Saves on space. The project itself is it's really highlights what that space can be used. And for my generation, our generation of veteran, the OIF, OEF, OND, those spaces were the exact same size spaces that we lived in when we were in Iraq and or Afghanistan. So
Mm,
that's actually like pretty amazing because I can remember sharing those size rooms with six other individuals. So, it's kind of like, wow, this is familiar. This is home.
yeah.
I've been here before. But it's not that same type of environment. They are in a, nurturing, caring, loving, understanding environment with accountability and responsibility. So a good night's sleep, purpose, motivation, and direction when they get up. And the beautiful part about our program is that when a veteran successfully transitions out of our program into a permanent housing solution, they take everything with them. So they take that furniture, they take that bed, they take those armor, anything that's not bolted down, basically,
Yeah.
they take with them to their new place. So they're not starting, oh, I did amazing in this project, and now I've got to spend all this money to get a new place. They are not starting with that.
Yeah.
They are starting with stuff that they already have sweat equity invested in the program. And if individuals experiencing housing instability and you walk into 240 square feet of your own place, that usually is an automatic, boost in morale. They're just really
Yeah.
excited.
So a veteran arrives to their new home and it's furnished. So the chair, the armoire, the stuff, and then they kind of regain their traction, kind of get back on their feet. And then when they move out, they actually get to take that all with them.
Yes, indeed.
Nice.
We've even had, and this is as of late, 3 or 4 of our last transitions who were like, I don't want to take this with me because I want to help another vet because they're like, I am
Yeah.
now doing. When I came in the program, I was here.
Hmm.
Now through the program and the way everything's working, I am now here. It's reigniting that warrior spirit that this program and that the housing does. So they're like, I don't want to take it. Like I want
Yeah.
to make sure it's given to somebody else. But it's really an amazing, to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Invested in the program.
So how long on average are the houses inhabited before the veteran moves to permanent housing?
So off the top of my head, I recall this. And I have an actual day count for you, but I think it's 431 days, but the average
Okay.
is about 13 to 16 months is where we start to see those things, their case management plan, all those things coming to fruition. And a lot of that, honestly, it goes back to the house.
Yeah.
So that first 60 to 90 days, individuals are starting to build and regain that trust in society, their fellow man. They're kind of leaving the fight or flight mode.
Hmm.
So it really is the house that is a huge tool. And I think that's why I was like, I'd love to hop on a podcast about tiny homes because I think that's one of the program pieces I know that I didn't see. But as we've grown to understand how important the way our housing model is laid out and set up, as you said, kind of the flowing roads,
Yeah.
no house looks directly into one another. It's the ability to engage with your neighbors. But also, if you choose to back off, you're more than welcome to. So the housing model and the way our village is set up, the way the house is set up, that's the power. One of the main pieces of power of this program, because that changed 30, 60, 90 days. They start to believe in themselves. They start to see that this is theirs. And that
Mhm.
is how they then progress and are allowed to adhere to their case management program.
Yeah. That's beautiful because I would imagine that maybe a more traditional model for housing homeless veterans might involve motel rooms or hotel rooms or other temporary shelters where people aren't getting that security of, four walls and a roof around their head and a space that is theirs.
So before, as I kind of mentioned, we did kind of tours around different tiny housing programs
Yeah.
to see what the other houses look like and what was available. And into so traditionally, my role with this organization was our original outreach worker,
Hmm.
loan case manager, program director of our housing. Now I work on the national expansion side, but I've spent a lot of time in a lot of homeless shelters. And as you just said, I know individuals who will not go to a homeless shelter or any shelter, period,
Yeah.
for fear, just straight out of fear, like rob, mug, things of that nature. Yes, you're out of the elements, but that's not really a good trade-off when you're losing all your belongings every time you go in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that really was what was sold us on this. That was, a very in-depth conversation about why this model will and can be and has been so effective. It's that safety. It's the ability to close that door and know that they're going to be safe, and it allows them to regain that trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be honest, the house itself is an amazing tool.
Absolutely. And it's just we've s- I've heard this anecdotally now and I believe it to be true, but just from different people, different organizations using tiny houses as a way to either a permanent housing for homeless people or as transitional housing, and it just seems like there's some kind of almost magic in the tiny house or in that small space that really gives people a sense of place again.
And from a larger social perspective, right? Like, this is America, right? Nothing exceeds like excess. I need
Yeah.
5 acres and a 7-bedroom house, even though it's just
Mhm.
me and my wife and maybe my 2 kids. And that's, for some individuals, that's home. That's fine. That's amazing. But it is really amazing to see when you can how simplistic you can live and how kind of you declutter your life.
Yeah.
My life was decluttered for me very many times by, when you go overseas, you take 2 bags with you. So for however long your trip is overseas, that's what you live out of. So that model, that simplicity allows these
Mhm.
individuals not to worry about gotta do all the cleaning or all the other things. They can focus on getting to where they need to be in their life, so then they
Yeah.
can refocus back on those things that we take for granted every day.
Yeah.
It's really like, less is more. It truly is in this particular instance, and it's very effective as well.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
What we have done, just kind of give yourself, even as well as, listeners, an understanding of what our housing program is. So we have 49 tiny homes. Initially, it was going to be 50, because obviously we're a group of veterans and 50 is a good number. We did have some challenges, and that kind of goes along with our champion who helped us out. We were as far as I know, we are still one of the only tiny homes villages that is zoned within city limits.
Yep.
So that was really huge for us. That was the reason why we ended up losing a house, working with the city, certain offsets that we needed to have. For lack of better terms, it's a subdivision, but it is not a subdivision.
Uh-huh.
So we have some unique challenges that we had to face there with the city, but we have an outstanding city council, and the mayor's office was behind us for our support. So that was pivotal in creating this program. But what we also did was our veterans have their own kitchenettes which some tiny homes villages do not. So it's that ability to eat when they need to eat. Because if chow is at 5 o'clock and you work 4 o'clock shift, you're not going to be able to eat.
Right.
We also went with individual bathrooms. We noticed that, kind of in some of the larger tiny home villages, there was a water closet that was kind of a group living type of deal.
Yeah.
With that individual. The only thing that we did not do, and this was actually by design, it's been working out well, is there is no on the spot laundry service.
Hmm.
Why that has occurred is because we also created a program with the Kansas City Transportation Authority and the VA. All veterans can ride the bus free in the city.
Okay.
So we are less than 500 feet from a bus stop. But also individuals experiencing housing instability have vehicles. When we think of traditional homeless, we're thinking about individuals under a bridge, one shopping cart full of belongings, and that's it. There are a lot of
Mhm.
individuals who are facing housing instability crisis, and they live out of their vehicle.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, as I talked about, the safety and security and reintegration piece, if you, Ethan, happen to have a vehicle and you come to live in the village and I don't, and I know that, obviously you're a veteran, and we start having a conversation. Hey, man, do you mind giving me a ride down to the laundromat? That creates instant connectivity. And then, of course, we get to give it, the military culture, we give each other stuff back and forth, just in general. And then individuals are able to, you know, organically grow as a community and reintegrate without it being a parameter or goal that we're setting out there. It's being done by themselves and they don't know that it's being done. And it's amazing to watch. It really is to see the village come alive and work together, whether it's laundry. We have children in our village. We have the family houses. So as the village has grown, the tiny houses, the children, the animals, the ability to connect is amazing. It's been a thing of beauty to see.
Yeah, and it also it looks very inviting. I'm just looking at the few photos on the website. Like there's nice lawn that's shared between the spaces, and there's it looks like there's some trees, like a little forest kind of behind the village, and it just looks like a nice place. Like it's not in the middle of a big parking lot in like an urban center.
So one thing we did when we toured, and this by any means is not a knock on any program out there, because I know that every program is doing their best and
Yeah.
with what they can. Being a nonprofit, we know this. It's hard. It's not easy.
Right.
But we wanted to make sure that, as you just said, our standard of housing for our brothers and sisters is with dignity. It is inviting. It is someplace that I would want to go to and I would walk in there and feel safe. It is,
Hmm.
that welcome home that they may or may not have received. So the way our program is set, the way our housing standard is, that is the Veterans Community Project standard. Just change of environment really uplifts it.
Yeah.
The situation gives them a sense of self-worth.
Nice. So how do veterans get access to the program?
So as you kind of spoke about earlier, we are known for the tiny homes. That is,
Uh-huh.
given. But what we also did, and I mentioned it earlier, was one of our big first wins, and didn't talk about that, was the partnership with the Kansas City ATA and the VA.
Hmm.
That allowed us to become the hub to issue bus passes for veterans. So statistic that I do recall, I think there were around 750,000 bus passes issued.
Wow.
Last time in counting, I think we're like 2.73 million rides utilized. What that created was the ability for veterans to come to us and understand what we do. It is about housing, but it's also about connectivity and referrals.
Yeah.
The way they can get connected, I mean, to be honest with you, the simplest thing is walk in the doors of 8825 Truce and have a cup of coffee, sit down and have a conversation.
Hmm.
We offer hygiene kits and snack packs, and some of the veterans who are choosing to live in a housing stability crisis or may not be able to escape that at that time, progressive engagement, keep involved with
Yeah.
individuals. There is an application process, and as well as screening and vetting and the whole nine. But really, the easiest way to inquire about houses or getting housed is to walk in the doors of 8825 Truce or hop on the webpage,
Mhm.
veteranscommunityproject.org, or give us a call directly at 816-599-6503. And really, you don't have to have a housing crisis or being in housing instability to come in and inquire about the housing. The average American, let alone veteran, lives paycheck to paycheck. Some of us are two or three paychecks away from being homeless. So it's that progressive engagement that allows us to be on top of a housing situation with that veteran in case they go down that path. It really is easier to stop the decline than try to dig an individual out of a hole.
Yeah. Yeah. So is there a long wait list for the village?
So the answer is the simple answer is no. The
Okay.
more robust answer is it is through that progressive engagement. So we do not have a wait list. We have a pool of eligible veterans. So if me and you
Okay.
decided to walk in the door and you're going good and everything's working out well, and I have some hurdles that I need to negotiate. I don't have a job. We're going to sit down and talk with one of our community case managers,
Hmm.
but they're going to continue to follow up, and then tables turn for you. And I'm actually in a dire situation, laid off, COVID, whatever may happen, to Ethan, and how that works out. They're going to reach back through that conversation, and you may be afforded a house because at that time, via what is available for you, this house now in this program is what is needed.
Right. Right.
Once again, that's that triage of the veterans where we both serve, but we may be eligible for different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's
I
a,
love it.
it's a very complicated way to say yes and no. Answer is no, there is not a long list, but there is an eligible pool of veterans who we stay in constant contact with to make sure that, that they are doing well and they're where they need to be, and also adhering to whatever standards they're setting. And then
Yeah.
we come in with the housing. Yes, we're here to help.
So from chatting, I guess a little bit before we started recording, you alluded to additional villages, groundbreaking in St. Louis and Sioux Falls, South Dakota. It sounds like you really developed a model that you're trying to bring other places.
Yes. So we, as mentioned, we built in phases. We finished Kansas City, which is home for this project.
Mm-hmm.
We finished it less than, so actually, I think I want to say we're at about 18 months now. 18 months
Okay.
to finish it. So, but what was happening was we were getting coverage from different cities, the veteran community, and there was so many individuals that reached out and said, "How do we make this happen in our city?"
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, like when we started this, as I kind of alluded to earlier, it was just a bunch of veterans getting together, drinking beer, eating, figuring out how we can best serve veterans in our community. It wasn't to say that
Yeah.
by any other community, but start off small. So once we completed Kansas City and we seen that this was something that it was needed, it's Veterans Community Project is needed in every city,
Mm.
but there are parameters that we need to be able to make this program functional. As we've progressed now, we have land acquired and are moving dirt and are building in Longmont, Colorado.
Okay.
In 2 days, we will be in St. Louis, Missouri for our groundbreaking, and then shortly after moving earth to building process. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, we are in development stages there. Land is acquired, and we are moving towards the general area. The goal is to have land identified and within 8 cities by the end of 2022.
Wow.
Currently at 4, an additional 4 are being identified and working with us at this time.
That's amazing. Can you, I'm sure that you can't dive into too many details, but can you talk about where your funding comes from in terms of like private donors, public, government money? How does that work?
And I thank you for bringing that up. I do apologize about that. That was something I totally I kind of forgot on that one. So for us, when we started this organization, we did not want to have to navigate all the red tape.
Mm-hmm.
So all or at this current time, most of our funding comes from private donors, corporations, grants. We receive and no federal funding whatsoever. So the first 3 years of this organization was every grassroots event that we could get out there, every way to
Mm-hmm.
continue to raise funds to, build a house. So we would build a house, stop, go raise some money, build a house, stop, go raise some money. But at this current time, we've expanded several, resources in order for the statement of our program. One of those is actually a barbecue sauce. If you happen, listeners happen to look up bravoq.org
Mm-hmm.
is a barbecue sauce that directly benefits Veterans Community Project. We are on all West Lakes in Kansas City, currently moving in Longmont, St. Louis, and got a couple out in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Cool.
It's we have a lot of outside the box thinkers here.
This sauce builds homes for homeless vets. I love it. I love how like direct it is on the label too.
Yeah, we have a lot of outside the box thinkers, and it's been really amazing to have this team come together and put this on. So that is a stream of revenue for us that allows us to continue the program. We now that we've been in operation, fully operational, as I said, going on less than 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
The first phase was actually up and running by 2018. So now we're able to apply for some unrestricted grant money that allows us to continue on. We have all the data to show how our method works. We are actually at a 89% success ratio when it comes to our housing. That is double the national average. So we're pretty proud of that.
And when you say the success ratio, what does that mean?
So that is when a veteran comes to us, we identify what their permanent housing solution will look like. As I mentioned before, is it logistically or reasonably possible to think that a 50-year-old veteran is going to want 10 acres in the 7-bedroom house versus a 20-year-old veteran with no family that just wants a studio apartment? So each veteran's permanent housing solution will be different in their given situation, but that is what we define as a success.
Yeah. Housing
stability.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I think it's fantastic that you're doing it and that it's working so well. It's inspiring, and it's I'm struck that it's unfortunate that there needs to be nonprofit organizations that do this work, that like it, we as a people, and I mean the government, because they are us elected, should be doing this for our veterans anyway. But I'm grateful that you're doing the work that you're doing and that it's working.
It's definitely been a labor of love. And it has been every day is a blessing to be a part of this, to help change. And I'll be honest, the focus of our organization is obviously veterans, and it's Veterans Community Project. But here's one of the other amazing pieces of our program, and it's in our name. It's the community. We have, as much as we would like to hear in this and what we accomplished, we only accomplished anything because of the community. It was community partners. It was mom and pop stores. It was just a family who, whether they had a connection to the service or not, just wanted to give back. The average American wants to do more than say thank you for your service. They want to assist. And we've been able to harness that power and show what really, what can be, what should be, and how lucky we are to have a great nation of citizens who appreciate the sacrifices other people have made. So it really is in the community. It is we were just lucky enough to kind of put it all together.
Nice. Yeah. I actually, one question that I'd written down that would fit better earlier in the conversation, but I was curious if you can share, what is the average construction cost for these tiny houses?
So initially, when I'll kind of go off our phases, our first 13,
Yeah.
it was about 15 to 20,000.
Okay.
Now, at the current standard that we built it at, is also, if you were to build it to our exact same standard, it would run you about 50,000. That's here in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
We were able to get that number, as I just mentioned, kind of more manageable for a nonprofit, relationship building, donations, in kind, all that fun stuff. But if you
Yep.
could
Yep.
build in Kansas City to our housing standard, it's about 50,000. Now, per each city, that's going to fluctuate, cost of living, all that other great things that happens,
Mhm.
partnerships that may or may not have been established, but the average home is about 50. If you were just to be like, I'm going to go build me a tiny home like this, for us, it was just, a lot of great partners. Once again, the community that allowed us to do that.
Right.
I can tell you in man hours alone, it was a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have you kind of gotten the cost down to now that you've got those relationships in place and you've got
that currently is the same 15
Oh, okay.
here in Kansas City. Now in our satellite cities, I cannot speak on that. I only say that because I haven't been involved in those conversations of the building of that.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
I definitely know though that some of the areas that we're going into, so Longmont and St. Louis, we are working diligently to build those partnerships so we can keep our the cost down. But that takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. It all takes time.
I know that as when Zach came to visit us, we kind of had this conversation, and really to the standard we built it at, and for the cost, he said, like it's a really amazing product. These are really amazing tiny homes. Even at 50, it's still a really good deal, especially being slab on grade, ground up, the whole nine.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, our houses particularly are pretty cost efficient.
Yeah.
We are only looking about $40 ish in utilities
Per month, per house.
per house. So it just depends, kind of, it does fluctuate via the season,
Yeah.
uses of the house.
Of course.
For the most part, we have a really cost effective
Right.
and clean living environment.
Right. And I mean, also thinking about all that infrastructure that you must have had to do in order to build those 49 houses, putting the electrical lines underground, the wastewater, the plumbing, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure that was very expensive to get that all put in.
Oh, yes. So I didn't give you the backstory of the property that we bought.
Yeah, please do.
The property that we bought was actually purchased from the Kansas City Land Bank,
Uh-huh.
5 acres for $500.
Ooh.
Yeah, amazing. And we, once again, as I said before, just a group of veterans looking to do the right thing, beers, food, good intentions. Now we have land for $500. Like we're rolling, right? This going in the right direction. Until you mentioned one of the most expensive and arduous development journeys that we've had is the infrastructure. We had no infrastructure, and that was a very long labor of love to accomplish that, to raise the awareness of our program, to raise the development dollars in order to get the infrastructure in. Now going forward, we understand all the things that we need, and I understand it. But in the very beginning, it was a shocker to us.
Yeah,
shocker to say the least.
Well, I'm still just blown away by how much you've managed to accomplish in just a few years.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
And really, we look at it and we see what has been accomplished. And there is no I in team. And this project really highlights that. There is, we are veterans and there's a unique group of us, but really We volunteer
Yep.
to serve our country because we love our country and our fellow countrymen. And that love is now being returned tenfold to us. So we are blessed to have that. We are blessed to have amazing patriots that work alongside us, amazing veterans that work here alongside us. And, just it's really amazing to see. And those always speaking of divisiveness in the country, but when you come around a Veterans Community Project organization, and as we expand, there's a lot of unity.
Yeah.
And it's not just the veteran unity, it's people thankful for what they have and wanting to give back. So it really is, we've only been accomplished this because of our fellow citizens.
Fantastic. Well, Vincent Morales, thank you so much for the work that you're doing and for being a guest on the Tiny House Lifestyle podcast.
Outstanding. Thank you very much for having me, Ethan. I hope, as I mentioned before, everybody gets a chance to check out veteranscommunityproject.org, learn more about our organization, which cities we are expanding to. We are on all social media handles, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And if you also get the chance and you like barbecue sauce, please give a look there at bravoq.org. You may see a sauce on there that actually is called Vinny's Spicy Sauce.
All right.
You might want to give it a whirl.
All right. Well, that's all I need to hear. I'm going to give it a try. And I will link to all of the links that were just mentioned on the show notes for this episode. So as soon as our interview is done, people who are listening will hear me say where they can go to find all those links in one place.
Outstanding. Thank you for thank you for tuning in. You have a great product. Thank you for inviting us here. Love talking about tiny homes for a lot of reasons. They are therapeutic. When you're put in the community, it works out amazing. And they also make really good hunting houses, from what I've been told.
It's true. It's true. Yeah, I mean, I live in Vermont, and that's there's a big tradition of kind of hunting cabins, very simple structures that people build in the woods, deer camp. So yeah, tiny houses have lots of great uses.
Yes, indeed. I appreciate you having me out today. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Vincent Morales for being a guest on the show. Please do check out the Veterans Community Project, and if you are in the position to make a donation, please do. This is a really great organization. You can find the show notes, including a complete transcript and links to Veterans Community Project and the Bravo Q barbecue sauce at thetinyhouse.net/179. Again, that's thetinyhouse.net/179. Well, that's all for the show. I'm your host, Ethan Waldman, and I'll be back next week with another episode of the Tiny House Lifestyle Podcast.